Hey guys, I'm back for another video here. This is going to be an important video, so you guys really need to pay attention during this one. I believe last time we talked about pointers, I want to say. Yeah. Just a little side note on them, we're not going to be using them too much. Maybe when we get into like sprite loading and some more advanced stuff, we might actually use them more. But once again, it's going to be it's going to be a later topic that's going to come in handy. But it's always good to review those, which we're not going to be doing today. I meant review those on your own. So let's bring up today's topic. Testing for collision. And you can tell I'm serious because I already have this, oh, what the hell. But I already have a graph all made out. Oh, so that's how you use the other color. Anyways. What was I talking about? Got so distracted by right clicking and I found out I could use the secondary color. Ah, so cool. Enough of my little rant there. So, yeah, testing for collision. First of all, if you guys don't know what that is, that's where two objects can hit each other. And today we're going to be learning about a very specific method of testing for collision, which is going to be bounding box collision. We might also learn about, oh god, what's it called? I think it's just called circle collision. But I may be wrong. It may be some other name, but those are two types of collision that we can test for. Well, I think we're just going to be doing bounding box today, so I only have this drawn up for that. And as you can see, there's these two boxes in here. And one box is currently inside of the other box. And currently like right in that area, you can see it there clearly hitting each other. So we want to be able to learn how to test for that. And this is important in many games. For example, take Pac-Man for example. He can hit the little walls, but he can't go through them. And he can hit the ghosts, and if he does, then the ghosts go bye-bye, or he goes bye-bye, loses a life or whatever. And also he collects the little gem things. So that's an example of circle collision and bounding box collision that are used in those. Circle collision would be circle on circle. Bounding box would be like box on box, and I think you can also use bounding box collision for a circle and a box colliding. I'm not entirely sure what you'd use for that. I guess you could really use either. But circle collision revolves. I guess you'd kind of need to know the midpoint for the box. So, you'd probably just. I just realized I spelled boundung. Bounding. You know what? Screw it. We're gonna use boundung collision. But yeah, you'd have to find a middle point for the box and stuff, so you'd probably just use bounding box collision for that. If any of you guys are interested, which I'm sure none of you are. Oh, who am I kidding? You're all interested in this. Let me spell that right. Bounding box, and then we've got our friendly circle. Okay. And today we're also going to be using some of the mouse input just because I believe it might be a little easier to show you guys. Extract to, close. Let's do stuff I made in lessons. Oh, don't worry about that ship game. That was another person's code I was looking at because he had some errors and stuff. So I was fixing that for him and teaching him how to do like speed boosts. But anyways, you're gonna see stuff in here like enums and menu too. Why is menu in there? I guess I'll show you guys how to create a menu also, because that'll be important for testing for collision also. So I'll rename this and do testing for collision. You can name yours whatever you want. You'll probably give yours some obscene name. Because you're just that sick kind of pervert, aren't you? Of course you are. So, we've got our Solution Explorer over here, and as soon as it loads, click, click, click. Oh, I thought my compiler froze for a second. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is create a function. Yeah. So, and get some variables out there. What variables do we use? Well, let's use X, Y, RGB. And we should probably state what type they are, just so the compiler doesn't give me a little bitchy error. Okay. So void draw menu. Is that how you spell menu? Yeah, pretty sure that is. Forgot no spaces. I can type today. Draw menu, and yeah, let's just do int x, comma into y. I don't care, it's not that big a deal. So void game draw menu into x into y. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is get some lines out there. Draw line. And let's do x comma y to x plus 50 comma y comma, oh wait, I forgot I had variables for that. And that'll be sufficient enough for the first line we're going to draw. So let's make x, if we're adding 50 and we want it to be in the middle, x is going to be 375. And that means that y is going to be, y is going to go down about 30. Now let's make that 60 pixels. No? Let's make it 40. So let's make y equal 200. God, I always hate that. Okay, so, oh yeah, let's make y 280. And let's just make our colors. Let's just make it a white line for now. Because we're all super racist and that's how we roll. No, not really, but you know. So let's do draw menu at x and y. Release configuration. And it drew a line pretty much in the middle. It's even. The 400 comma 300 line is going to pass like right through the middle of it exactly. So it's pretty much what we want. And let's just go ahead and finish up our box here. X comma y. Let's see if y is 280. We're going to start that top left hand corner and we're going to be drawing to 40 pixels on the y-axis downward, I believe. Oh yeah, I didn't screw that up. And if you just fill in the rest of the box, it's going to be about how big our menu is going to be. It's just going to be a little button where you can click on. And let's do the same for the other side. X plus 50 comma y comma x plus 50 comma y plus 40, I believe. And it's always good to test your code after like you draw a line or something to make sure you didn't screw it up. And yep, let's just make the finishing line. See, we want to do x. Oh no, just regular x, and let's do y plus 40, and let's draw it to x plus 50 to y plus 40. Let's add some colors in there. And I think I clicked the wrong one, but oh boy, it's stored. Okay, so we're just gonna be able to like click on this, and it'll be our play button. If this were an actual game I was making, I would actually like, well, I wouldn't do pixel art and like draw the play and stuff in there, but you could if you wanted to. I would just load a sprite font because I know how to do that and you guys don't, which I'll be teaching you sooner or later. Probably in the next few lessons or so you can load a picture in, which is so much easier than doing this. I'm just going to tell you that right now. But it's complicated because you need to learn how to read hexadecimal and stuff. Don't worry, I'll teach you that too. So, what we want to do is do void update. Let's just do update menu. And this is where we're going to be doing all of our collision testing. Whoa, screw that up. Void game update menu. Alright, so what do we want to do? Well, the first thing we want to do is test to see if the mouse is in the window. And that needs to be done. If mouse dot is in window, and mouse dot, we want to make sure the left button is clicked. And I'm just going to go ahead and write this. Let's see what I want to write. See, I'm trying to think of what I need to do here. And mouse dot x, get mouse x. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video because it's gonna take me a second to write all this. And I finished doing that, and as you can see, it is a buttload of work to do. Testing for collision involves testing for every possible way that they could hit. As you see here, we're testing for that little space right there to see if it comes in from the right. Basically, let me draw this better size. Because I don't believe you're getting it when I say that. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is have our menu. And then we've got our little mouse guy, which will just be the dot. Okay, well, we have to test all four corners, or all four sides of it. And by testing for those, that's a terrible dot, but who cares? But by testing for those, we can test for every little possible diagonal way that it can come. So, what we do is we first check to see if the mouse's x coordinate is currently greater than the x coordinate for the box. And yes, this one currently is greater than it. And we check to see if its y coordinate is also greater. Well, that would mean that it would be like down here and to the right. So if it goes inside there, then that is not true. So we know that it's hitting. And that's just testing for one direction that it could possibly come from. And we also test to see if it's less than it. And if it's not, then it's true. We also test to see if it's lower than it, greater than it, above it, or below it. So, in reality, we can test for every single little direction that it's coming from by just seeing if it's below it, above it, to the left of it, or to the right of it. And that's all we need to do. And that's all that code is. So let me go through it again. So if mouse is in window, which means if it's anywhere in that black screen, and we're left clicking, and the mouse's x coordinate, so this is important. Okay, so when you have an item, it is drawn from right there, right? Of course it is, because that's the top left hand corner. and that's where our starting pixel is, and we add stuff to it from there, and we drew a box around that one little pixel basically. So this is 50 pixels. Oh, I right clicked again, didn't I? But anyways, this is 50 pixels to the right. So therefore we have to add 50 pixels, because if we're just testing to see if it's greater than the x coordinate, okay, well this is the x coordinate, but that's x plus 50. The real x coordinate is over here. So we have to test for anything starting from here to over there. So the very second that it enters that box and it's clicked, we know that they're touching, right? So you add the width of the object. For example, we had a box and it was like 30. We would add those 30 pixels to that very first statement. And where's my mouse? There it is. So the mouse.getMouseX plus 50. So we want to make sure that we're all the way to the right of it, and we're coming into the very edge of it, and is greater than its x coordinate. And what that means is the mouse is like 1 or 2 pixels wide. I really don't know. But if that, like for example, we are now touching the side of it, so I can click and it goes away. So if the mouse is touching anywhere on that coordinate, it basically sees them as one object. So for example, if my mouse is like right there and it's touching that edge right there, it would look and see, ooh, there's something that is in between these lines and it's inside of this box, meaning, and it's on the outside of this, meaning that it's a bigger object than this. It's not really a bigger object, but it sees it as, ooh, we only know this is 50 pixels wide. So if something touches it, and we now see that somehow it's 51 pixels wide, then we know that something is touching it. Because it would see it from like right here, and see that there is something touching it, a pixel outside of the box. It would know that it's touching. I really think I'm butchering that explanation, but that's how it works. And then we also test to see if the mouse is less than x plus the mouse. And what that means is if we're on the left side, we don't have to add that 50 pixels. The reason that we don't do that is because the starting point is going to be on this line. That is the very first pixel that it starts at. So we wouldn't need to add 50 or subtract 50, because remember, it starts at, this is the very first pixel, that top right hand corner. And we don't have a need to add those 50 pixels because, for example, we would have to be clicking over there always, and we don't subtract 50 pixels because then we would like be clicking over there and would think, oop, it's clicking inside of our box when it's really not. So you just don't do that. When you're coming from the left side and your sprite starts at the left side right there, you don't do that. You do not need to add that, and you shouldn't add it. And if that is less than the x, wait, where am I? Yep, plus the mouse, so we know that it's touching. And we do the same for the y, except this time we add the height, right? So if we're testing for the y, we are not going to add the vertical, or we're not going to add the horizontal. We want to add the vertical, right? Because if we're coming from the bottom, we don't really care what the x is. We just need to know that it's coming upward, which has nothing to do with the x coordinates at all. So it makes sense that we would add the height. And the final thing that we need to do is test to see if it's coming above. So if the mouse's y coordinate is less than the y plus the mouse, then we know they're touching. And that just tests if it's coming from the top, right? So then what we need is a Boolean value. Now, I called it is menu clicked equals true. Now, I have the Boolean in there, and I declared it as false up here. And if it's clicked, then it equals true. Now, what I did down here is a little different. As you see, we have the update menu, and that's going to be testing for all of our collisions. So we want that to be at the very top of our function, because we want anything below it to be tested. So that way, if there's any possible way, anywhere that these are being hit, it'll always check for it. So, what we do here is we test to see if the menu is not being clicked. And the reason that we do that is because the menu needs to be constantly drawn to the screen until the point where we click it, right? Okay, well, if the menu is not clicked, then draw the menu. So right now, it is not clicked, so we're drawing the menu. But the very second I click anywhere in its boundaries, it disappears, because it equals true. So we're not going to draw that menu anymore. So draw it constantly until it's clicked, and we can't get it back. It no longer exists in this, and it never will exist unless I close the program and start it again. And that is basics on testing for collision. That is bounding box collision. This method is. Testing to see if it comes from any direction is bounding box collision. The circle collision we're going to get into later. Probably not in this video, but the reason that it's harder is because you have to use the distance formula. Where is it? Source files, there it is. And if you go into not the draw circle, if you're in the updated framework and it's the draw disk, go to the draw disk, and you're going to see this function if square root float x minus cx times x minus cx plus y minus cy times y minus cy is less than r, then put a pixel. We're going to be using that top line, that if statement. Don't use the put pixel thing in there, but that is the distance formula. And that checks to see if the distances between the radiuses of two circles is completely different. Or is like, if one circle's radius is going into another circle's radius, basically, and the distance between them is less than it should be, then we know that they're touching. And that would make sense. And I just told you guys how to do that, so if you guys really wanted to, with what I've just shown you, you can take that as a little homework challenge, use this formula in the updated framework, and see if you can test for collision using the circle collision. It's not hard to do, it's just a pain because sometimes it doesn't work and But that is how it works. And you can create a game around this. You can create like a bunch of menus, and you can just copy and paste that code, and you would know that it's being clicked, right? And you could have like an options menu and click it, and if that is clicked, then bring up an options screen or whatever. The menu thing isn't really going to come in handy until we learn how to load sprite fonts. So, I mean, unless you have like a play button or something, which would come in handy if you don't want them to be like immediately brought into your game, which makes sense too. I mean, you could just make a quick play button. And there is another way you guys can make sprites, and nope, it's called the Lux Image Scanner. What you do is you click Let's Go, and you just find an image by clicking that button. Click Load Image, and close that. Cancel. Okay. And what it does is it'll automatically detect the image height and weight. Click Use Transparent Color. And what you do is when you make a picture, like for example this box, the transparent color you need to set it to is 255, 0, 255, and that's purple, but it I believe they call it like maroon or something. What the fuck did I do? Hooray for right click options. So fun. But what you do is you would set that to like purple, like the inside of your image, so that way only the part that's purple is not going to be seen, because that's what's called a transparent color. Why is it doing that? I'll close it and open it again. But anyways, it's called a transparent color, and the transparent color should be 255 by 255. And you can also put what you want the coordinates to be, like it's gonna put it at like z comma b would be, instead of x and y. You have the ability to change your pixels, or the coordinate names of the pixels, so that way if you already have something named x and y in your program like we do, you can just go ahead and put that right in there. And I'm going to show you guys how to get it. Well, the first thing you could do is go up to your Google or whatever. Mine's being slower than hell because I'm recording. You do capital LUX, and then you do image scanner, and you're going to see this. And you want to scroll down until you see the website Planet Chili View Topic Custom Sprites, and it'll be right there. And it's by this guy named Lux, and you scroll down and he shows you how to do it. And this, for example, you'd only see like that yellow color thing, because the maroon is the transparent color, so that wouldn't show up in the program. And you want to get the version 1.5 or the newest version possible. And like this guy said right here, Chili, he said the easiest way to upload a sprite is from a bitmap, and he makes his own videos too, so that's why it says coming up soon, bro. But that is the quickest way. Is you'd make a bitmap file, which is a picture format, and then you could actually upload that into your game and interact with it. But until I teach you guys about like file opening and stuff, then that's kind of out of our reach for now, which will be in a few lessons, and it's going to be more console projects. Just because I can't show you in this at all until we do sprite loading. Sprite loading is the only thing in this graphical interface that will use, that will actually be using the file opening. So I kind of have to show you guys in the console project. So if you guys were wondering what was coming up soon, there's your answer. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Comment, rate, and subscribe.